No,
They like sometimes guess like they incorporate all these other questions that I ask
thank
in
you.
their answer,
You gave me a
and then
bag?
it shortens the interview.
Thank you.
Because I'll answer a bunch of questions like
I tried to make it
ahead, so we could, you know, if you could, if possible, you know, avoid that. That's helpful
Oh my
for me.
God.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll say, what happens with lead poisoning in adults, and then I'll go ahead and answer that, and then answer for children, and you know, a bunch of other questions that I've asked, and then it's like, okay, now this interview has just been shortened by, you know.
Doesn't have to be a complete half an hour because I'm not a big talker.
Oh no, but it's like. it should
How about
be
the
a
loan
half an hour.
program? I can go on forever as long as we get some applications out of this. I'm fine. I would like to get another grant.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you. You don't mind if I have crib notes in front of you?
Oh no, not at all.
Okay.
It was just that some people like read,
No.
and then they'll.
Yeah, I saw you read
Yeah,
that.
then some guy like he kept reading the wrong answers because he wasn't
We
really.
jumped one.
Yeah, like or I dropped the question for a time, and then he just was like, you know, sticking to the answers. And,
Well, since we're not on camera, you can just say.
no, but we kind of are
Oh, yeah.
because we're on
okay.
Facebook Live.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I look that fat.
You
Jeez.
look fine. You look
Yeah,
good.
thank you. Hey, it's got like a time delay on the one on the right. Is that the deal? But it's okay if I.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay. I just wanted to know exactly how much money I think. I'm never gonna remember.
Oh, okay.
So that's it.
Did I ask how much money? Which question was that? Yeah, no, it's good to refer and be accurate. So this one, let's see. So this one is this one, right?
Yeah, having problems.
Oh
here.
no, it's fine. It's perfect.
Yeah, this is oh, definitely.
You could use the headset or not use the headset. It's up to you.
What does it accomplish?
Well, the headset lets you know that because if you can't hear yourself, it means you're not talking in the
Yeah,
microphone.
you should keep wear them because some people like talk and then they fade in and out, and so if you like talk kind of close and keep it in
Would you
front
know?
of the. Yeah.
You would know.
Yeah, but then it's hard for him to signal, and you're, you know, so if you just want to put on the headsets and make sure you're close to the mic.
All right, as long as I don't have to wear it, I just
Oh, you
prefer not. I don't want to wear it.
Okay.
Sorry to be difficult. I realize it's a radio. Are you
Well, I
hearing?
can-
Are you hearing me okay?
Well, you talk into the mic.
That's what I intend to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
and I
find.
guess I'll let you know if I'm having trouble hearing you, you know.
Is that better? I was
Alright,
told
we're
on
gonna
Sunday
go
the
on.
difficulty I had was I had the mic too close to my mouth, so the people
Oh, were
in
you
the back.
here on Sunday?
No, in the carousel building.
Oh,
They
okay.
couldn't hear me in the back because it was muffled.
I don't know, because here it's good to be close to the mic.
Right.
Is
How's this sound so far?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not really hearing him, but it has to go
Yeah,
live,
if,
I think, for me to hear.
Give me the headphones. I don't want to be difficult.
Oh.
Which one?
Which headphones connect
The
to?
cross right there?
Yeah. Okay, so Harry, can you introduce us?
You're listening to Law, Life, and Culture with Betsy Kim.
Hello, I'm Betsy Kim, and welcome to 103.5 FM, Law, Life, and Culture in New Haven. Lead paint. It's not just a problem of the 70s, along with lead dye number 2 and flame retardant in children's pajamas. It is still a cause of health problems today, here in New Haven. In 2015, Mayor Tony Harp wrote to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development requesting federal funding to eliminate lead paint from people's homes. The mayor wrote that New Haven had the highest number of reported cases of lead poisoning of children in Connecticut. We're in the studio with Paul Kowalski, the City of New Haven's Environmental Health Program Director. He'll talk about what the city's doing and what you can be doing to help reduce the threat of lead poisoning. Hello, Mr. Kowalski. Welcome to Law, Life, and Culture.
Hi, Betsy. Thank you for having me here.
Let's first quickly review the dangers of lead poisoning. For years, I have heard that lead poisoning contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire. I had read Claudius, Caligula, and Nero exhibited classic symptoms of lead poisoning. What happens with lead poisoning in adults?
The Roman Empire had their aqueducts lined with lead. They also drank out of lead vessels. Putting alcohol in a leaded vessel just puts more lead within the drinking solution that's there. Lead is an element. It's a soft gray metal, and it's a toxin. It is something you do not want in the human body, or in that fact, any organism at that fact. It impedes neural development. It has a host of ill effects, anything from behavioral deficits to organ failure at the extreme.
When I lived in New York in an old building, friends told me not to drink out of the hot water because the pipes often contain lead, and that I should even let the cold water run a little bit before drinking it. Is that good advice you'd suggest for people living in old buildings in New Haven?
I'm not too sure about the building you lived in New York. New Haven's water supply is very good. The issue with drinking water out of a hot water pipe is the water sitting within a hot water tank. You don't really know how long it's sitting within that line. It doesn't get flushed out as much. You really should just drink cold water. And at the same time, every morning, flush it for at least a few minutes, just to ensure that you're freeing anything that's within the line. Lead was used as a solder for a long time. It's been banned for a long time as well. So in the older homes, you still might have solder pipes that didn't get fully encrusted. So therefore, it's not leaching lead into the water. Over the years, we have tested easily over 2,000 water supplies, and the water company tests on a weekly basis. Our water supply is fine.
Okay. Well, short of the more extreme complications of lead poisoning of the early Roman emperors, what are some of the initial symptoms that adults can experience?
Depending upon the level that the blood lead level that the adult has, it could be numbness to fingers, tingling, headaches, difficulties with just normal processes. At higher levels, you could have some serious deficits arising.
I've also read lead poisoning is far more dangerous with children, especially before the age of 6, because their brains and bodies are rapidly developing, and the damage from lead poisoning is irreversible. What are some symptoms of lead poisoning in children?
You see, that is the dangerous part about lead poisoning. Within a child, it's an insidious disease. Every parent should have their children tested. Within the state of Connecticut, it's a mandate. Children have to be tested twice between the ages of 1 and I think it's 36 months. Every parent caregiver should bring their children in to get tested from their health provider, because you really don't know what a child's blood lead level is until the child gets tested. There's no overt signs unless the child is really heavily intoxicated.
What are some of the dangers or symptoms or damage that you can experience with children, or that children can experience?
You brought up the fact that a child, because of its rapid development, if he or she ingests lead, they are irreversible. They have neurological deficits. It could lead up to organ failure as well. But predominantly it robs a child's future. The IQs drop, and psychological disorders can arise.
Now, I understand the damage to children can occur even before they show any symptoms, so it's best to prevent the exposure to lead in the first place, correct?
Correct.
What are some of the best ways to minimize the threat of lead poisoning in children?
Keep all children away from chipping and flaking paint. Clean the house routinely to eliminate any lead dust if dust is available. Call the health department to have the houses checked for the presence of lead-based paint. Wash the child's hands regularly and thoroughly. Nutritious foods to compete with any kind of lead that may be within the child's system.
Yes, one of my friends pointed that out to me, wondering what nutritious foods had to do with lead poisoning. Can you explain the benefits of nutritious food when there is a threat of lead poisoning?
Nutrients can help eliminate the lead if there is some lead within the child himself or himself or herself. Beyond that, it's just pica is the main cause of lead intoxication. It's the putting of non-food objects within one's mouth. When a child's experiencing teething, they have routine pica.
What is pica?
Again, it's the ingestion of non-food objects.
Okay, does that stand for something? Is that an acronym?
Oh, I don't think it's an acronym.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know for sure, but I don't think it's an acronym.
Well, we met because last weekend the city hosted its annual lead education picnic where you provided these same messages to children and their parents at an all-day family event at the beach. What does the city do, or rather, why does the city do this event for lead poisoning in particular, as there are a lot of other nasty health threats out there, for example, smoking, gun violence, bullying?
I operate the Bureau of Environmental Health for the city of New Haven. One of the most important activities that I've done for the past 36 years, in addition to restaurant inspections, is the, I hope, elimination of lead poisoning within children. I don't get involved in any of the other activities. There are other entities within the city that would do that. We've been pretty successful in reducing the number of blood lead elevations within the city. Unfortunately, New Haven still, at this time, has the highest number of elevated blood leads than any city within the state of Connecticut.
Is that for children or children as well as adults?
Children.
Now, you've told me since 30 years ago, as you said in this conversation, the rate of lead poisoning has dramatically dropped. But since the mayor's letter to HUD in 2015, has New Haven reduced the rate of lead poisoning in children, or is 2 years still too early to make any real inroads?
Oh, it's never too early. We've been monitoring and tracking blood lead elevations for probably 40 years. I've only been with the health department for 36. From 474 children that were reported to us greater than 10 micrograms per deciliter in 2002, in 2016, we had 77. However, it's a little misleading because CDC has been changing what is considered as the level of concern for the past 40 years. At one time, the level of concern was 65 micrograms per deciliter.
Okay, let me just add that you mean micrograms of lead found in deciliter of blood?
Correct. Microgram is 1/1,000,000th of a gram, and a deciliter is 1/10 of a liter. It's a determination of how much lead is within child, adult, whoever's being tested. The city of New Haven is now at 5 micrograms per deciliter. That is what CDC concerns. In 2016, we had 291 children. So it's still an issue within the city of New Haven. CDC is now considering reducing it from 5 to, I think, 3.5. No amount of lead is good.
The city's event in preventing lead poisoning also caught my eye because there is a lot of beautiful and old architecture in and around New Haven. If you live in an old building and perhaps you just slap a coat of paint year after year on the walls that probably have lead-based paint, but as long as there is no chipping, and I'm not eating any peeling paint off the walls, is there still a health hazard?
Yes, it depends upon where the lead paint is found. Within the state regulations as well as the city ordinance that we enforce within the city of New Haven, you consider other surfaces such as chewable and mountable surfaces if a child can gain access to it. But again, like I was saying earlier, the predominant route of intoxication is the ingestion of lead dust. And if it's the window wells and sills, or if it's chalking from the outside, it's sitting within the window well itself, and then it just blows inside and goes onto the floor. Doors, impact surfaces, door jambs, door frames, those would create dust, but at the same time, it can grind the lead-based paint into a powder or into a dust, which in turn becomes accessible to the child.
But for adults, is this still a problem if all the lead paint seemingly is not chipping or has been covered? Is there a threat to adults in this matter?
Not really. Most adult intoxications are occupational related.
So what if one works in an older building and there is a painted brick wall and a big crack in the wall that seems to continue to get bigger and bigger? Is there a chance that this office worker needs to check out whether there is a record of the lead-based paint to avoid possible exposure to lead in dust in that situation?
Not really.
Why not?
One, again, that's not dust creating or dust producing. And the person isn't really living there. And I would hope that they don't have hand-to-mouth ingestion of Pica at that age. If it's a daycare or a school that has children below 5 years of age, Yes, it could become a concern at that point. A crack in the wall, not so much, but the presence of lead-based paint in an area where it could be made accessible to a child, yes, that's a concern.
When you inhale lead and dust, is it usually visible? For example, do you see a layer of paint dust on the floors or furniture, or is it a kind of lead exposure that can happen without our knowledge?
It depends upon the amount of dust and the amount of lead that's within the dust.
Is there any general guideline about that now?
As it relates to what you need to have the limits within a home that is occupied by a child, yes. Office workers, other areas such as that, no.
Would the dust be visible or in general or not? Is it an invisible threat?
Again, it depends upon the cleaning habits of the occupant. Being visible or not visible. The only true determination is to take a sample of whatever's on the surfaces. Over the years, we've had dust samples, the layers that didn't really look very extensive with lead, which came back unbelievably high.
Does the health department in New Haven also check office buildings and schools for the presence of lead?
Schools, yes, and just about every school within the city of New Haven has been completely redone.
Now, without a complaint, does the health department routinely check some public spaces, or do you need citizens to give your department a call in any situation where they feel there could be a threat of exposure to lead?
Within the state of Connecticut, there's a reporting system in place where providers, medical providers, contact the state health department as well as the municipal health departments to report any blood lead elevations. We will also go out to the residents with just the city of New Haven, residents of any child, if a caregiver calls us up and has a concern or a question regarding the health of their child and the condition of the apartment as it relates to lead paint.
Well, wherever you are, for our listeners, we recommend you stay tuned to New Haven's best radio station for a healthy dose of news and information. We're here with the city's Environmental Health Program Director, Paul Kowalski, on 103.5 FM, Law, Life, and Culture, and I'm Betsy Kim. So I did attend the city's lead education picnic and felt even beyond lead education, for an event hosted by the city's health department, it had other public health benefits. For example, the education picnic encouraged people to go outside, socialize, and connect with others. And I have read that's critical for mental health. Does the city host additional similar health events?
I'm sure it does. I'm not really aware of the other activities. There's always activities going on in the city of New Haven on a weekly basis, especially during these months.
Do you have those other health benefits in mind in addition to the lead education with the annual picnic that you've been hosting?
Without a doubt. This was our 17th annual lead education picnic at Lighthouse Park. The first lead education picnic we had was at the New Haven Coliseum, which is no longer there, unfortunately. But hopefully one day we will have a venue such as that. The Lighthouse is a perfect place for something like this. It's a draw, it's a beautiful facility, and we did like to get other people out there, which was cool. Thank you for joining us.
Great, I had a good time. Well, in addition to passing out information about preventing lead poisoning, we also distributed a brochure for people to obtain a loan from the city that results from a U.S. Housing and Urban Development Grant. These loans can financially assist people, like landlords, and homeowners who live in owner-occupied housing, and it helps them get rid of lead-based paint in their homes. Can you explain how these loans work?
Certainly. The city of New Haven since 1994 has been very fortunate to receive HUD Lead Hazard Control grants. Thus far, we have abated 1,380 apartments units. Some of these are private homes as well, utilizing close to $9 million that was put out on the street to property owners. The loan program is a 0% interest deferred forgivable loan. Over a 5-year period, if the owner of the property markets this apartment or home, if he or she lives in there for that point, for 5 years, it is completely forgiven. The income guidelines that HUD promulgates is for the occupant. It could be for a homeowner or a tenant. For instance, the highest income level of a family of four is 80% of the area median income, which for the city of New Haven is $68,000. So therefore, any apartment home that is occupied by a family with children making less than $68,000, whether it's homeowner occupied or tenant occupied, can access these funds. And I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say we still have roughly $1 million left. This program ends November of next year. I'm hoping to apply again for another program sometime in the spring of next year.
Now, does a child under the age of 7 have to live in the residence for someone to be eligible for such a loan?
If it's a vacant unit, the owner has to agree to market the unit to a family. Income qualifications have to be there, but as it relates to the presence of a child, if it's a vacant one, no.
Now, for people who aren't renting out property, and if they don't qualify for the HUD income criterion, can they still benefit in any way from this loan? For example, could they also get some kind of loan from this program, but perhaps pay at a lower interest rate than just say with a bank? Or could they obtain, for example, a deferred payment with a loan?
I'm smiling because you said lower than 0% interest rate from a bank. No, unfortunately, these grants are put out on the street via Title 10, which was put out 25 years ago, and there are strict income guidelines. Again, for a family of four, less than 68,000 as the occupant. If it's a vacant unit, it has to be marketed to a family of four with children making less than 68. If you're above that income guideline, unfortunately, this program cannot be of benefit to you.
So you have said that there's about $1 million left. Can you repeat again how much money so far has been distributed in New Haven to abate lead paint stemming from this HUD grant?
Certainly. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've been fortunate to have 6 rounds of funding thus far, allocating close to $9 million to lead abate 1,380, sorry, it's very small numbers, 80 units.
Now, these remediation loans resulted from an application a while back, but at the time of the application, there was a different administration in federal office preceding the election of Donald Trump. How long will the city continue to offer these loans?
Well, again, this current program is until November of 2018. I'm hoping that this program continues within the federal budget, and President Trump did actually allocate additional funds for this particular lead hazard control program with HUD, although decreasing a large amount of HUD's funding, specifically CDBG, that would negatively affect not only cities, but this program.
And now with Ben Carson, the U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, has a radically different agenda than at the federal level in contrast to the prior administration. Are you concerned about the future of this lead paint removal abatement program, even with the explanation you provided with Donald Trump's support of it?
I've been told that the current Secretary of HUD, being a physician, is very supportive of this program.
So with the lead education picnic, as we noted earlier, it provided a public health service apart from lead hazard concerns, in that it helped get people together with the community to enjoy one of the city's public beaches and a public resource to reap some health benefits. Do you have any other similar events planned, or for next year's event, is it going to again be at the beach, or are you not planning that? Well, I'm sure you have plans in mind for next year's venue.
You have to reserve the space at Lighthouse Beach at least 2 years ahead of time. We plan on being there, God willing, next year. I hope to see you there as well. It's a great event. This past Lighthouse event, we had over 900 people in and out of there, at least 400 children. I will send you great shots of beautiful kids. There were beautiful families that were there this past weekend. And I think the educational outreach that these types of programs afford work, as you can tell by the declining rates. So it's not just the abatements that are going on. And by the way, the average cost of an abatement, a lot of homeowners are afraid for the cost. The average cost of a full lead abatement of the units that we've already done is less than $6,000. And that's an energy conservation effort as well, because most of the leaded components are the windows. So you have the lead-free or lead-safe, whatever way you want to determine it, energy efficient, clean, asthma trigger-free, healthy home for the families that are living there.
Now, I'm sure that this last event was budgeted with funds already allocated for the fiscal year, and I assume as you have next year's underway that it has already been budgeted for next year as well?
Yes. The funding that we utilize for this type of educational outreach comes from the HUD grant that we have. It's federal funds, it's special funds, it's not general funds from the city of New Haven.
So even with the change of political tides, you don't think that, at least immediately, is going to affect how you're getting things done, including with this annual lead education picnic?
True. Again, as I said, this program goes through November of next year. We're going to have another one in June of next year. And God willing, for many years to come until we can say, yes, we've eliminated lead poisoning within this town.
Now, on Sunday, you had told me that the highest number of lead poisoned children in New Haven historically has been from the Hill, Dixwell, New Hallville, and Fairhaven neighborhoods. This was due to not only the older stock of housing that runs throughout the city, but also the higher turnover rate of tenants. What special message in particular about lead poisoning would you want to let people in these neighborhoods know?
Thank you. One, have your children tested for the presence of lead poisoning. It's an easy thing. The next time you bring your child into the physician, have he or she test your child's blood lead. They're supposed to be doing that anyways, but it's a good thing just to ask, just to recommend. Two, if you really have a concern about the presence of lead-based paint within your house, call 203-946-8174. Also, if you're a property owner and you wish to access these funds, the same number, 203-946-8174. And Ms. Jennifer San Giorgio will be very happy to help you.
Well, thank you very much, Paul Kowalski, the City of New Haven's Environmental Health Program Director. We enjoyed speaking with you about lead poisoning in New Haven and what people can do about it.
Thank you, Betsy.
To learn more information from the City of New Haven about lead poisoning and what to do about it, you can visit the website newhavenlead.com. And to our listeners, thank you for joining 103.5 FM's Law, Life, and Culture. I'm Betsy Kim.
Thank you. That was cool. How was I? Did I get across what you wanted to do?
Yeah, that was great. You were